Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. In this podcast, I will talk about the concept of left refoundationism. There are two major communist, socialist parties in the United States that use that term. One is called Solidarity. Solidarity is a Trotskyist organization, basically a third camp Trotskyist organization, meaning that it's not actually Trotskyist. It's more heterodox Trotskyist. I was a member for a time of Solidarity. Am I proud of it? I don't really care. I'm not going to say whether I'm proud of it or not proud of it. It was a part of my communist journey. They are not Trotskyist for a variety of reasons. The main one is because Trotsky hated them. Well, maybe slight exaggeration, but not much. Solidarity is one of the two organizations in the world to accept the idea of left refoundationism. Left refoundationism. Solidarity is also one of the two organizations of the world to accept the idea of third campism. Now, I am not going to focus on third campism here. Maybe we can talk about that later, and I can give you my critique of third campism, especially from a Maoist third worldist perspective, because I was a third campist for about 10 years. I have been in so many different communist tendencies. I can create a list of them, and the list would go on for maybe a page. Not that long, but long enough. But third campism is not really the subject that I want to focus on now. Instead, I want to focus on left refoundationism. Liberation Road is the other organization which focuses on left refoundationism. So you have Solidarity, which is a heterodox Trotskyist organization. And then you have Liberation Road, which was originally a Maoist organization, although from everything I can read, they no longer identify themselves as Maoist. The group that they split away from does identify itself as Maoist, but Liberation Road does not. The group that they split away from is called Freedom Road. Kind of confusing, isn't it? But Freedom Road and Liberation Road were originally the same organization. To make matters even more confusing, fun, eh? Liberation Road used to be called Freedom Road 2. Not Freedom Road number 2, but Freedom Road, comma, TOO. That created tremendous confusion because you had two groups that were called Freedom Road. The group that is now called Freedom Road is a revolutionary Maoist group. And they have gotten into some legal trouble over the years. The group that is called Liberation Road now, but used to also call itself Freedom Road, is not really Maoist anymore. I would say that if I had to put a label on them, I would say that they are kind of progressives or social democrats, something along that line. And so they have found a common ally, I guess you could say, with Solidarity, a heterodox Trotskyist group. Although they disagree on some things, they're not a part of the same organization. There have been talks in the past about a merger between the two organizations. That merger has never taken place. I've read about it, and I followed it for a long time. I thought it might be interesting if there was a merger, and how they would iron out their many disagreements, but that never became an issue because the two organizations have remained separate. And I think for both of them, looking at it objectively as a social scientist, I think that was good. I think that was good for solidarity, and I think that was also good for Liberation Road. Now, what is left refoundationism, which is accepted by both of them and is the common thread that binds them together, despite their many differences? Left refoundationism is a belief that the left needs to be reconstructed upon a new foundation. Now, exactly what that new foundation is, I don't know. I have read through the literature of Solidarity and of Liberation Road, which used to be called Freedom Road, and I have not found any clear definition or explanation of what left refoundation would look like. In other words, you would have to find some new way of establishing the left based upon certain principles that were not used in the past. The idea is, I think, to bring together various communist, socialist, or perhaps even social democratic groups and bind them together in working for common goals. Now, there are already a lot of organizations which do that, in particular, Trotskyist parties. The majority of Trotskyist parties, though not all, have become social democratic or progressive. The majority. There are still some orthodox Trotskyist parties as well, but the majority of Trotskyist parties are not orthodox. In the US anyway, the majority are social democratic. What does that mean? It means that although they may accept some principles here and there that were used by Lev Trotsky, for the most part, they have abandoned Trotskyism in favor of progressivism or social democracy. And so that is a similar thing to what Solidarity has done. The major difference is that Solidarity actually has a clear belief system. Liberation Road, to the best I can tell, does not. In other words, I have tried to figure out what do people in Liberation Road actually believe in, and I can't find anything of that nature. I can't find evidence of what they used to believe in, but what they used to believe in does not seem to be reflected in what they are currently doing. So it would appear to me that basically Liberation Road is entirely devoted to the issue of left refoundation, refounding the left based on common principles. But again, what common principles? I wish someone would tell me. When I was a member of Solidarity for about 6 or 7 months, it's interesting because I joined Solidarity as I was beginning to lose interest in third camp Trotskyism, or really more accurately, third camp heterodox Trotskyism, because Trotsky himself hated third campism. And so what happened is that in June of last year, I reached my breaking point. I no longer accepted third campism or third camp Trotskyism or third camp socialism, as some call it. And so I simply left Solidarity. And at that point, I became, once again, because I was once before, about 11 years ago, a Maoist third worldist. Now, if that confuses you, Imagine how much it confuses me. A whole lot. My communist life has been very confusing. Sometimes I've wondered why, and I thought, well, maybe it's because of my autism. And I think that may be a contributing factor because of my difficulty at times with cognition and communication. It has led me to a point at various times where I basically lose touch with where I am, and I look for different answers because the organization or movement or communist tendency that I'm associated with does not seem to provide all the answers. To me, that strikes me as a cognitive issue. Now, whether I'm right, I have no idea, but that is my impression. Still, that does not tell you or me what left refoundationism is. And I think that the reason for that is because there is no such thing. It is an ideal. It is based on the idea that progressive groups, maybe even communist groups or socialist groups, something, I don't even know where their limitations would be, need to come together and work for common goals. So, for example, one thing I noticed is that a lot of people who are left refoundationists began to call themselves Bernie Bros. If you're not familiar with that term, in the US, a Bernie Bro was a male supporter of the senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, who tried to get the nomination for presidency of the Democratic Party twice and failed both times. The first time, he lost to Hillary Clinton, and the second time, he lost to Joseph Biden. Now, would he have been better than either one of them? I have no idea. Would he have won against the Republican? In the case of Trump, I have no idea. We know that Biden won out against Trump the last time. Would Bernie Sanders have won out against Trump? I have no idea. There really is no way of knowing because it is such a confusing idea, meaning there is no set of principles of left refoundationism. So all I can conclude is something which literally makes no sense, that there is no such thing as left refoundationism. It is an objective. In other words, there is a search for some kind of policy or set of policies or set of ideas or an ideology that would unite various groups on the quote unquote left. Now, would I call those groups on the left? No, because to me, the left, at least the left with a capital L, refers to communist and perhaps some anarchist groups. It does not refer to social democratic or progressive groups. One of the major things which upsets me online, for example, on YouTube, is that there are so many YouTube channels which call themselves leftist, like David Pakman, the Young Turks, and on and on and on. None of them would fit my definition of leftist, except for maybe one or two that I'm aware of. And I am friends with both of them as individuals. But the majority of them, they call themselves left or leftist. And I think, how in the world are they left or leftist? They're centrist. They're progressive, they're liberal, maybe, or something like that. But leftist? No, they are not leftist. So my conclusion again is that the left in the US is basically dead. That is a sad conclusion, but I think it is an inevitable and an accurate one. The last time there was an attempt by the left to become revived was basically on a large scale anyway, with the New Left. Then after that, there was the new communist movement, which involved the Black Panthers, but basically the New Left. I was active in the New Left beginning in 1978 and going on till 1979. That is when our chapter of the Students' Democratic Coalition fell apart. I came back to school. I looked around. I won't use her last name, just her first. She was our president. I looked around for Steffi. She was our president, and I couldn't find her. I assumed she was somewhere around, but where she was a mystery. Her and the entire organization fell apart. Now, Steffi and I were the two most active members of our chapter of the Students' Democratic Coalition. But we really couldn't do anything. We tried some things. We tried protesting against nuclear ballistic missiles. We were in solidarity with Cesar Chavez, working to support the migrant workers, the Mexican migrant workers in California. Did that work? No. The situation of the migrant workers now in 2024 is worse than it was in the late 1960s. So we were a complete failure, which I think is one of the reasons that the left, what I would call the left, fell apart. Now, I was a leftist because I called myself a commie. Were all people in the new left leftists, meaning commies? No, not all of us. But I think most of us were at least inclined in that direction. Most of us leaned in that direction. Most of us, if not communists, were communist friendly. I just made that term up. We were open to the idea of communism. We thought that communism would be a good thing. We did not usually use the term socialism. We used the term communism. Now, the term communism is rarely used by people who call themselves the left. Instead, they use the term socialism, or sometimes democratic socialism. And as a result, you have a lot of people who are not democratic socialists, like Bernie Sanders, who calls himself one. Bernie Sanders is a social democrat who used to be a democratic socialist 30 years ago. He is no longer a democratic socialist, and yet he usually calls himself one, although on occasion I have heard him call himself a social democrat, which tells me one thing: he knows that he is no longer a democratic socialist. I am convinced of that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm convinced of that. And I will take that to the grave. Maybe I'm wrong, but I will take that to the grave. So, left refoundationism. Was Bernie Sanders left refoundationism? Because so many people who called themselves left refoundationists, whether in either of those two organizations I mentioned, the former Maoist organization and the heterodox Trotskyist organization, supported Bernie Sanders. I don't know. So again, in my view, left refoundationism is a word, or a term, I should say, without a definition, because there is no clear consensus, maybe is the right term, on what left refoundationism should be. And maybe that's why it's left refoundationism, because the idea is that people who want it need to get together and actually refound the left. The problem is, when I've looked around and tried to see if either of those two organizations, the former Maoist organization and the heterodox Trotskyist organization, are actually working to refound the left. The only thing I can say is no. The heterodox Trotskyist organization appears to me to be third campist. I'm sure there are some people in it who are not third campists, but the people I knew were. So that's all I can talk about are the people that I personally knew. I was a third campist, I guess, and I was briefly a member of Solidarity. Now, in terms of the former Maoist organization, it's not Maoist. So what is it? I don't know what it is. I have no idea. It's not clearly on the left. I guess they support progressive causes, which is why they broke away from the other organization, which remained Maoist. Remember, originally there was only one organization, not two. But then eventually they found that they could not get along well, and so they split apart. Liberty Road became two separate organizations. One remained Maoist, and the other became left refoundationist. Then I guess to avoid confusion, a few years ago, the more left refoundationist version of Liberty Road changed its name to Liberation Road. I'm sorry, Freedom Road changed its name to Liberation Road. I guess that eliminated confusion. But to be honest, I am still confused because I don't understand what left refoundation is. Is third camp Trotskyism in the US left refoundationist? Maybe. But as far as I know, the only people who believe in third camp Trotskyism are third camp Trotskyists. So how is that a left refoundation for anything? In terms of Liberation Road, they were Maoists. They dumped Maoism. They now talk about all different tendencies that they associate with. They even mention Solidarity on their website as one of their friends. They cooperate with Solidarity in some of their activities. What are they? I don't know what they are. I don't understand exactly what it is that they do. So I wanted to make this podcast, I suppose, to point out the confusion that exists on the left. But what I think can be said is that the left, as it exists in the 21st century, is not the left in the sense of being communist. It is progressive, it is liberal, or something like that, or social democratic perhaps, but it's not communist and it's not socialist, at least as those terms have been historically employed. And so I wish I had a clearer answer for you. I don't. I wish I could figure out exactly what Left Refoundation was. I can't. And I was a member of a Left Refoundation group, and I still don't know. So if I don't know, now, since I was only a member for a few months, maybe you would not expect me to know. But I did read about it, and I could not find an explanation for what Left Refoundation is. In any event, to bring this ridiculous podcast to a conclusion, my suggestion is avoid left refoundationism. It is not the left, just like progressivism is not the left, just like social democracy, which is really another term for progressivism, is not the left. The left is communism and revolutionary socialism. Anything else is simply an imitator, a mere imitator. And if we genuinely want to establish a new society based on communist principles, not based upon left refoundation, whatever the hell that is, then we need to turn to genuine communist organizations. And my suggestion is that we turn to Maoism, Third Worldism, because to me, the reason for this tremendous confusion over what is the left refoundationism, is because of First Worldism. First World communism has not worked, or when it has worked and then failed. Its success has been short-lived. And yes, that is the correct pronunciation, not short-lived. It is short-lived. So my suggestion would be look into Maoism, Third Worldism. If you are so inclined, become a Maoist Third Worldist. Follow this channel, follow Jason Unruh's channel, follow Red Pagan Nicole's channel, and try to gain a better understanding of what Maoism Third Worldism is, because in my opinion, that is where the left needs to go. And that is a way that we can escape all this confusion, which has led us down the road to Liberation Road, okay, and solidarity. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.